Hello! Yes! And welcome to our part one of our Objective 13 notes. Now, Objective 13 says I can identify the independent and dependent variable in the context of a linear word problem or data set and create an equation from the given information to solve. All right, so today we're going to start on the second part of that, of creating equations from given information. And that's what we're really going to practice today. And then our next note session will really get into the independent, dependent variable and linear word problems. All right, so what I'd like you to do is I'd actually like you to start on your own. This is going to be a little review of what we've done these past couple of weeks. So go ahead. I would like you to complete numbers 1, 2, and 3 on this task. So 2 points are shown on the graph on the coordinate plane. Complete the following steps to find the slope-intercept form of the equation of the line that goes through the 2 points. All right, so first we're going to find the slope, then we'll find the y-intercept using a point, and then we'll write the equation of slope-intercept form and graph the equation to check our work. So go ahead and give it a shot. All right, go ahead and give that a shot. Go ahead and pause the video, and then we'll check to make sure we are good to go together. All right, so let's see how we did here. So find the slope of a line through the 2 points. So we need to remember here that m, or our slope, is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So with that being said, we have the coordinate points -3, 6, and 5, -6. So we have -3, 6, and 5, -6. So this is our x1, y1, this is x2 and y2, and then we can just plug in these values. So our m will equal y2, -6, minus y1, 6, over x2, 5, minus x1, -3. So -6 minus 6 becomes -12. 5 minus -3 will become 5 plus 3, which is 8. That can simplify to m will equal -3 over 2. So we found our slope of -3/2. Now let's find the y-intercept using a point. So let's say we can use this point here, -3, 6. So we'll say y. Here's our x, here's our y. Remember, we're using y equals mx plus b here, and we're going to solve for b. So we'll say y, 6, equals m, -3/2, times x, -3, plus b. Now, -3/2 times -3 would be +9/2. All right, now this one gets a little tricky here, so we need some common denominators here. So let's say this is 12 over 2 equals 9/2 plus b. So I need to subtract 9/2 from both. 12 minus 9 is 3, so I find out that b equals 3/2. So with all that being said, I can combine that. So my equation, y equals -3/2 x plus 3/2. And let's check. So on my slope, if I go down 3, right 2, down 3, right 2, down 3, right 2, down 3, right 2, sure enough, that lines up. Beautiful. I can connect my dots. Excellent. Now check my y-intercept. It should be 3/2, aka 1.5, and yes, indeed, 1.5 is my y-intercept. Awesome. So that process we just used is something we're going to use quite a bit in this lesson, where we find the slope and then the y-intercept. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to find the equation of the line that goes through the 2 points and graph our equation to check our work. All right, so we have the point 1, -1. 1, -1 would be here. -3, -3 would be here. So first thing, let's find our slope. x1, y1, x2, y2. So we'll say our slope is y2, -3, minus y1, -1, over x2, -3, minus x1, 1. -3 minus -1 would become -3 plus 1, which will be -2. -3 minus 1 would be -4. -2 minus 4, that would tell me that m equals 1/2. All right. Now, with that being said, let's use a point x1, y1 here. So y1, negative 1, equals m 1/2 times x1 plus b. Well, 1/2 times 1 is just 1/2. I can subtract 1/2 from both sides, subtract 1/2, and I would find that b equals negative 3/2. So my equation would be y equals 1/2 x minus 3/2. So we're given a couple points here. Let's go ahead and use it. So up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. Good. My slope checks out. Up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, down 1, left 2. Connect these dots here. There we go. Now check my y-intercept, negative 3/2. That'd be negative 1.5. I would say that looks a lot like negative 1.5. Very nice. All right, let's try another one together. Negative 1, 3, and 3, negative 5. So negative 1, 3, 3, negative 5. So let's find the slope here. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So we'll say m equals y2, negative 5, minus y1, minus 3, over x2, 3, minus x1, negative 1. Negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. 3 minus negative 1 would become 3 plus 1, which is 4. Negative 8 divided by 4. We'd say that m equals negative 2. Now using y equals mx plus b, we can solve this out here. So y, we'll say 3 equals m negative 2x negative 1 plus b. Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2, right? Negative times negative gives me that positive. To get b, I'd subtract 2 from both sides. 3 minus 2 is 1, so I'd find a y-intercept of 1. So my equation would be y equals negative 2x plus 1. So let's check that. Make this one here. That'd be up 1 left, or up 2 left 1, up 2 left 1, or down 2 right 1, down 2 right 1. Fantastic. All right, let's connect these dots. Excellent. Excelente. Very good. All right, let's go ahead and turn the page here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to find the function f of x of the line that goes through the 2 points, and then use that function to evaluate for the given input. So this time, instead of writing it as y equals, we're going to write it as f of x equals, but the process still stays the same. All right, so with that being said, let's do letter A together. We're going through the points 3, 4, and negative 3, 0. So that'd be right here. So we need to find our slope. So x1, y1, x2, y2. And I'd say y2, 0, minus y1, 4, over x2, negative 3, minus x1, minus 3. When I do that, I'd get negative 4 over negative 6, which tells me that my slope is 2/3. Now using y equals mx plus b, I can say y, 4, equals m 2/3 times x 3 plus b. So 4 equals, let's see, 2 times 3 is 6. So this will be 6 over 3, which is just 2. So 4 equals 2b, or sorry, 2 plus b. Let's clarify that a bit more. 4 equals 2 plus b. So subtract 2, and I'll find that b equals 2, which means that my function f of x equals, let's see, that was 2/3 x plus 2. Now let's graph this and see if it works. So up 2, if I go up 2, right 3, sure enough, up 2, right 3, that'd be off the graph. Down 2, left 3, that'd also technically be off the graph. But we can go ahead and connect some dots here. There we go. Looking good, looking good. All right, now they want us to find f of 6. So remember, to do that, I plug in 6 for my x. So I'm going to go ahead and do this on the graph here to save some space. So f of 6 equals 2/3 times 6 plus 2. Well, 2/3 times 6 is 12. So f of 6 would equal 12 over 3 plus 2. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So f of 6 would equal 4 plus 2. And 4 plus 2 is just 6. So f of 6 would equal 6. And if I look graphically, over 6 looks like, yeah, that'd be about up 6. Very nice. All right. Let's try one more together. Letter B. Looking at -4, 1, and 1, -4. So -4, 1, and 1, -4. There we go. All right. So let's start by finding my slope. So x1, y1, x2, y2. So m will equal y2, -4, minus y1, over x2, 1, minus x1, minus -4. So -4 minus 1 would be -5. 1 minus -4 would become 1 plus 4, which is positive 5. -5 divided by 5 is just -1. All right. So now I would say using y equals mx plus b, I'd plug in some values here. So y1 equals m, -1, times x, -4, plus b. Well, -1 times -4 is positive 4, so 1 equals 4 plus b. Subtract 4, and I'd find that b equals -3. So my function here would be f of x equals negative, and if you want to write the 1 there, you can, but you don't have to. So -x minus 3. All right, now let's go ahead and graph this and make sure. So -3, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, up 1, left 1, up 1, left 1, up 1, left 1, up 1, left 1. Very good. Connect my dots. Excellent. There's my line. Now it says to find f of -2. Now notice on letter A we did it algebraically because it wasn't necessarily on the graph. However, with letter B, f of -2 is totally on the graph. We would just need to find where the graph crosses where x is -2. And remember, that would be right here, this line, x equals -2. And we can see just by looking at that, that graph crosses right there. It's that point. What is the value of that point? -1. And we can check that algebraically as well, of course. We can say f of -2 equals the opposite of -2 minus 3. Well, that would be positive 2 minus 3. What's 2 minus 3? -1. So that works out that way. So on the ones where it gives you the graph and the point is on the graph, you're more than welcome to use that, especially if it's a point that is not a fraction. That's a value that we can easily discern. That being said, if you want to use the algebraic method, that'll totally work too. All right, so we've done a few of these together. Why don't you try letters C and D on your own? So go ahead and try letters C and D on your own. Pause the video, and then we will check that together. Go ahead and try C and D on your own. All right, let's go ahead and check letters C and D here. So looking at letter C, x1, y1, x2, y2. We're going to find our slope here. So we have -3, 4, and 1, 3. So looking at this, I know this is going to be a negative slope. And I would say m equals y2, 3, minus y1, 4, over x2, 1, minus x1, -3. Well, 3 minus 4 is -1. 1 minus -3 is 4, so my slope is -1/4. Very good. So now I would say y 4 equals m -1/4 times x -3 plus b. So that means 4 equals -1/4 times -3 would become positive 3/4 plus b. Now I need to subtract 3/4 from both sides. 4 minus 3/4, so that'd be 16 over 4 minus 3 over 4. 16 minus 3 is just 13, so that'd leave me with 13 over 4. So my function here would be f of x equals -1/4 x plus 13/4. All right, Now to graph this, I'd go down 1 over 4. Oh, that'd be over 3, wouldn't it? Over 4, there we go. Connect my dots. Excellent. Nice straight line. Oh, straight enough. All right. And now f of 5. Oh, look at this. F of 5 is one of the values that I plot here. F of 5, if I look it up, that is 2. Very nice. All right. Looking at letter D. x1, y1, x2, y2. Let's find this slope here. So we'll say m equals y2, negative 3 minus y1, 5 over x2, negative 1 minus x1, 3. Negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. Negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. And that would simplify to negative 8 divided by negative 4 is just 2. So let's plot these points. We have negative 1, negative 3. We have 3, 5. So we can go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. Sure enough, that looks beautiful. Let's go ahead and connect those dots. All right. Now notice my y-intercept is one that's graphed really nicely. So if we did the algebra, that's fine. However, to find that function, look at this. It's going to be 1, right? My y-intercept is going to be negative 1. So I could go ahead and write f of x equals 2x minus 1. Now to find f of negative 1.5, that's my input. So I need to plug that in. F of negative 1.5 equals 2 times negative 1.5 minus 1. Well, 2 times negative 1.5 would be negative 3. Negative 3 minus 1 would equal negative 4. All right. So negative 4 is my answer here. Now think about on our graph as well, negative 1.5 would be the value between 1 and 2. So it'd be on this, splitting that line right there. And if I look, sure enough, it looks like it goes right at negative 4. All right. So we can call that pretty good. All right. Raise your hand if you have any questions, or if we didn't do too well, let me come around and help you out. Otherwise, I want us to look at this table here, okay? Now, I want you to spend a couple minutes or however long it takes, really, and I want you to identify the pattern that is shown in this table here. What if instead of giving you points, they give you a table? Can we find an equation from that, all right? So go ahead and see if you can fill in the table here, and then we'll check that together. So go ahead and pause the video, see if you can fill it in, and then we'll check it together. All right, so hopefully we noticed a pattern developing here with our outputs, right? So 3 to 18 is an increase of 5, so we need to continue that increase. So this would be 23, 28 plus 5 would be 33, 33 plus 5 would be 38, and then 38 plus 5 would give me 43. So that tells me that my slope is 5, all right? Because every time my input increases by 1, my output increases by 5. From there, I need to find my y-intercept, and there's a couple different ways you could do that. You could work backwards to when x is 0, or we can use the algebra that we did, right, with y equals mx plus b. And we can use one of these as a point. That wouldn't be very tough, would it? Let's use the point 3, 13, right? That's what this table says is one of our points, 3, 13. So I can plug in 13 for y equals m, which is 5, x is 3 plus b. 5 times 3 is 15. To get b all by itself, I'd subtract 15, subtract 15. And 13 minus 15 is negative 2. So that means my equation here would be y equals 5x minus 2. All right. So I found my slope by looking at the table and then used algebra to find my y-intercept. And that's what we're going to do for these next few, okay? So let's go ahead. Now notice for a and b here, it's not in a perfect order here, all right? 1, 3, 6, 10. There's no interval where it's only 1 apart, all right? Now we're assuming, of course, that all of this data is linear. So that's just an assumption we're going to roll with here. But what if they don't give us consecutive values. How can we approach this? Well, let's make some points from here, all right? 1, 5 is the point 1, comma 5, and 3, 11 is the point 3, comma 11. We can use those to find the slope between them. We can call this x1, y1, and this x2, y2. And now let's find this slope. So we'd say m equals y2, 11, minus y1, 5, over x2, 3, minus x1, 1. 11 minus 5 is 6. 3 minus 1 is 2. 6 divided by 2. We can find that m equals 3. Now that I know my slope is 3, I can use a point. We can use 1, comma 5 again to say 5, right? I'm going to use y equals mx plus b. So 5 equals m3 x1 plus b. 5 equals 3 plus b. Subtract 3, 5 minus 3 is 2, so I find that b equals 2. So an equation that would work for this table would be y equals 3x plus 2. So that makes sense? Let's try another. Let's try letter b here. So I can use any of these values. I'm going to use the middle two this time. So let's use 0, 3, and 2, 1. So let's find the slope between those points. So m would equal, let's say this is x1, y1, and this is x2, y2. So y2, 1, minus y1, 3, over x2, 2, minus x1, 0. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. 2 minus 0 is 2. Negative 2 divided by 2 would tell me that my slope is negative 1. Now notice here, what point did they give me? Well, they gave me the point 0, 3, right? Isn't that my y-intercept? So that tells me right away that b equals 3. So I don't even need to do that additional math to calculate my y-intercept that I did on letter A. I can just go ahead and write my equation. Y equals negative x, you could say negative 1x if you wanted, plus 3. There we go. All right. Why don't you go ahead and try letter C and D on your own, and then we'll check those together. Go ahead and try C and D on your own, and then we will check those together. Go ahead and pause the video. Try C and D. All right, so looking at C and D, I'm going to pick a couple points here that we can work with. Let's use 7, negative 4, and 11, negative 6. So we'll say this is x1, y1, this is x2, y2. And we'll say that slope equals y2, negative 6, minus y1, minus negative 4, over x2, 11, minus x1, 7. Negative 6 minus negative 4 would become negative 6 plus 4, which is negative 2. 11 minus 7 is 4. Negative 2 minus 4 would be negative 1/2. All right, so now that I found that slope, let's use y equals mx plus b. So then I'll use that point 7, negative 4. So I'll say negative 4 equals negative 1/2 times 7 plus b. So negative 4 will equal negative 7/2 plus b. Remember, multiplying fractions, we just multiply across. So I need to add 7/2 to both sides here. So negative 4 is negative 8/2 plus 7/2. Well, negative 8 plus 7 would give me negative 1/2. All right, so I'll say that b equals negative 1/2, which means my equation is y equals negative 1/2 x minus 1/2. Hopefully we did pretty well there. Let's check out letter D. Oh, points we want to use. Let's use these. Let's use 0, negative 1, and 4, 11. Now, obviously, if you use different points, that's okay. We should still end up with the same slope. So we'll say this is x1, y1, and x2, y2. So we'll say our slope is y2, 11, minus y1. So that'd be minus negative 1. Over x2, 4, minus x1, 0. 11 minus negative 1 would become 11 plus 1, which is 12. 4 minus 0 is 4. 12 divided by 4, we'd say that our slope is 3. Now notice, one of the points they gave me again, 0, negative 1, that's our y-intercept. No algebra required. Woohoo! And we can say that y equals 3x minus 1. Excellent. Hopefully we're feeling confident. Let's do 2 more before we wrap up today. Why don't you go ahead and try letter E and F. Go ahead and try E and F on your own, and then we will check those together. E and F on your own. All right, let's check letter E together. So I'm going to use these points here, -8, 0, and 4, 3. So x1, y1, x2, y2. So we'll say our slope is y2, 3, minus y1, 0, over x2, 4, minus x1, -8. So 3 minus 0 is 3. 4 minus -8 would become 4 plus 8, which is 12. So we can say that our slope is 1/4. And now let's use a point. Here we'll say 4, 3 is a fine point to use in our y equals mx plus b. So we'll say y, which is 3, equals m, 1/4, times x, which is 4, plus b. Now 1/4 times 4 is just 1. That worked out well. We can subtract 1 from both sides. 3 minus 1 is 2, so that tells me our y-intercept is 2. So my equation here, y equals 1/4 x plus 2. Fantastic. All right. Last one, letter F. Let's do it. All right. Let's see here. Let's use these top two here. So let's say -3, 4, and -1, 0. Now when I do that, we'll say this is x1, y1, this is x2, y2. So m will equal y2, 0, minus y1, 4, over x2, -1, minus -3. So 0 minus 4 is -4. -1 minus -3 would become -1 plus 3. -1 plus 3 is 2. -4 divided by 2 is -2. So that tells me my slope is -2. Now, when I plug in y equals mx plus b, let's use this point -1, 0. So I'd say 0 equals -2 times -1 plus b. -2 times -1 is positive 2 plus b. To get b all by itself, I'd have to subtract 2 from both sides. So I'd say that b equals -2. So my equation would be y equals -2x minus 2. And that's it. That's all we're going to do today. Nice job. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll call that a good note session. Mr. Carter signing off. I'll see you next time.